This brief presentation on the literary elements in The Dead by James Joyce will help you to understand this week's reading assignment so that you can discuss it in depth in our 2 discussion forums. We'll also be discussing Araby and Ivy Day in the committee room. You must use at least one direct quote from the literary work and at least one direct quote from a literary expert in the 4 discussion posts that you will write this week. The recommendations for further study folder will help you start your research. Let's begin the presentation with the author's background. James Joyce was born in 1882 in Dublin, Ireland. Both of those facts are important. We need to understand that he lived actually in the 20th century as an adult, so he's not an ancient artist by any means. And the fact that he lived in Dublin is extremely important because a lot of his writing has a political theme to it. In fact, the story Ivy Day in the Committee Room takes place on October 6th because that's an important day, an anniversary of the death of Parnell, and that's what that story is all about. Araby also has a political theme. Mangan's sister in that story can actually represent Ireland and Catholicism. And we get this connection through the symbolism. You really have to read the literary research to understand because this is pretty obscure. James Joyce was friends with Richard Mangan, and he wrote a poem about Ireland. So Mangan's sister is the way James Joyce symbolizes Ireland and Dublin and perhaps the Catholic Church in that short story that we'll be studying. James Joyce is often recognized as the most influential 20th century novelist. He did a lot with the writing style, for example, with the stream of consciousness point of view technique. He was the oldest of 10 children, and his father's behavior forced the family into poverty. He had a Catholic education, but he renounced Catholicism and Ireland at the age of 20. We actually see this decision being made in the short story Araby. This is about an older man reflecting back to a time when he was a young teenager, and he's pursuing this teenage girl, but she's not paying any attention to him. And the young man goes to a bazaar because she has asked for a particular gift. And when he goes to the bazaar to try to get the gift, he runs into another girl, and she is, instead of helping him buy the gift for Mangan's sister, she is instead consorting with the soldiers from northern England. So you get the political theme in there. And when we discuss that story, we're going to see how James Joyce's background and his views about Ireland and religion all are crucial to the understanding of his work. He lived as an expatriate in Europe, and he was there in Paris with the other expatriates, one of them being Ernest Hemingway. And we'll be studying Ernest Hemingway, and we'll be reading a novel about the expatriates. So you can see how there's a lot of connections between the literary works. James Joyce died in 1941. Next, we'll talk about the setting. The setting of the story, The Dead from Dubliners, takes place in a Dublin home in the 1920s. There's some occupations that are important, and occupations, remember, are a part of the setting. The main character, Gabriel Conroy, is a teacher and he's a writer. He writes book reviews, and that's going to be a part of the conflict in the plot. The lifestyle is definitely middle class. The political beliefs are the fact that Irish freedom is in jeopardy. And again, the people who are jeopardizing that freedom would be the English, particularly the Northern English. The religious beliefs are similar to what we studied in The Death of Ivan Ilyich, that fear of death. But this time, and in Ivan Ilyich, it's not just the physical death. It is the death of the spirit, the death of the soul. In addition, the family relationships here seem to be close, but in reality they are distant. Well, the main character, Gabriel, is thinking about his wife and what a wonderful relationship they have and how they're going to have a wonderful evening together. Her mind is actually on someone else that she knew when she was younger. Now, the main characters are Gabriel Conroy, a young married father of two, a teacher. His wife Greta, who thinks about Michael Fury. Michael Fury is the man that Greta loved. He died after singing to her. He was outside in the cold and caught a disease and died. So he becomes a figure in her imagination that she constantly thinks about during the time of the story. Miss Molly Ivors is a passionate Irish nationalist who argues with Gabriel. She's both a friend and a co-worker from the university. Aunt Julia is Gabriel's aunt and hostess. She's the hostess who's near death, and Gabriel thinks about her at the end of the novella. Aunt Kate is Gabriel's other aunt. She is sickly, but more outgoing. Mary Jane Morkan, Gabriel's cousin, teaches music. And music is an important theme, and it's symbolic, just as it will be in the Toni Morrison novel Jazz that we'll be studying. You have to listen to the lyrics and understand that there's a political theme as well as a theme about other issues in the novel. Mr. Brown is a guest who may symbolize English rule over Ireland. Remember, that's a crucial theme in the novella. Freddie Malins is a young male guest with a drinking problem, and he stands for the fact that the young people who stay in Ireland are not going to be able to resolve these political problems. Instead, they'll get involved with drinking or other types of activities that are not productive. Notice that the real-life James Joyce felt that he had to leave Ireland in order to write about it. The themes in the novel are disparity between romantic inner perceptions and squalid outer reality, and that comes from L.J. Morrissey. So we have Gabriel thinking all these romantic thoughts about Greta and his world, and then he learns throughout the novella that it's not like that at all. The death of the spirit versus physical death is another theme. And we saw some of that with the Tolstoy novella as well. Definitely we'll see the political struggle between Ireland and England. In fact, Molly Ivors and Gabriel have a disagreement because Gabriel is writing book reviews for a newspaper that's conservative and actually favors England ruling over Ireland. Disillusionment and the loss of self is another theme, and that's from L.J. Morrissey as well. The plot is fairly simple to follow. Gabriel and Greta arrive at his aunt's home for a Christmas party. He has a confrontation with Molly Ivors because he writes book reviews for a conservative newspaper that supports British rule over Ireland. Molly leaves, and the dinner begins. Gabriel gives his traditional speech. The other guests leave. Greta becomes distant because she is thinking of Michael Fury, a passionate young man, the opposite of Gabriel. Fury sang outside her window in winter and then died. She tells Gabriel about him, causing Gabriel to stop thinking any romantic thoughts and instead think about his Aunt Julia and her impending death. This leads him to his own thoughts about his own death. He feels his own soul is dead. With James Joyce, you need to do a lot of research because the symbolism is intriguing, but it can be obscure unless you understand what Joyce was trying to portray. For example, the names are symbolic. The story opens with Lily, the caretaker's daughter. Her name symbolizes Easter and resurrection. This contributes to the symbol of death and resurrection. Michael Fury died, but he is resurrected because Greta thinks of him. And many experts think that Michael Fury is actually meant to be a symbol for Christianity. Now, Monkstown, the place where Gabriel will sleep in a hotel after he leaves the party, is also symbolic. The monks slept in coffins. This symbolizes that Gabriel is traveling toward his own death. The snow and the December party also symbolize death. James Joyce is known for using stream of consciousness as a narrative technique. He imitates the way the human brain thinks with disjointed sentence fragments. However, The Dead is written with a third-person narrator and dialogue, making it much easier to understand. Now, you're reading Araby, and that is also easy to understand, but that is actually a part of a trilogy, and the next book, the next literary work, is a novella called The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and that is written with stream of consciousness. We start out on the first page with Molly Moo Cow because we're in the inside the mind of a very, very young toddler. And that novel is more difficult to read, but it follows this this theme that we see here, the political theme, the idea with Freddie Malins that the people who stay in Ireland, the young people, they're making a mistake because they can't save Ireland. Joyce feels they have to do what he did and leave Ireland, but always to write about it and to work on the political problems that way. Now, this ends the presentation, and just as a reminder, this is a very complex author, and the recommendations for further study folder will help you start your research this week, but there's got to be millions of citations for James Joyce. He's one of the most famous novelists that you could possibly study, so this is just a starting point for you. If you have any questions, please let me know.